Alright, here's an interesting mushroom. Old man of the woods. This one's looking a little bit old. This is an edible mushroom. I've never brought myself to eat it though. It just has a gray appearance. And it's very rough and sort of felt-like. Kind of reminds me of a dirty air filter for your furnace after it's gotten wet. I think that's the best description I can come up with. But it is edible. It's a bolete. I've got it all over my hands now. Very spongy. I generally cut all the mushrooms I find in half in a cross section. Just to check for staining. This one actually has some brown staining. But all the boletes have pores, which is this spongy-like material, instead of gills, except for the gilled bolete. That's the only exception. But I'll just take the mushrooms and cut them in half and look at the pores. It almost has a reddish stain to it. I don't recall that with the other old men of the woods I found. It's been a couple years since I found any though. I'm gonna go back and look through my field guides and see if that's pointed out as one of the identifying features of this mushroom, because it certainly looks like old man of the woods. But since I haven't gathered it in a while, I'll go back and double check. It actually smells really good. Kind of neat though. Old man of the woods. I've only known one person to eat them, and he didn't seem too impressed. But at times I'll find a bunch, and if you get them when they're young and firm, I think they might actually be a pretty good edible. This is the woods that I find my Cinnabar Chanterelle mushrooms in. It's basically an oak woods, and there's a good mix of white pine in here as well. But the thing that really makes it good for Cinnabar Chanterelles is all this debris on the ground. Old logs and broken branches, lots of leaf litter. I was in here about a month ago and I found about 20 or so, but I came in here 2 years ago and I found over 200 in just a small little area, less than 1 acre. And the Cinnabar Chanterelles are smaller than the common Chanterelles, but I think they have a better flavor. Sometimes they can even have a peppery taste to them, a little bit hot, sort of like black pepper, maybe a little hotter. Other times they're not hot at all though, so I think it just depends on the time of year and the area you gather them. I figured I'd hop in here real quick and take a peek and see if any new ones are coming up. But so far I don't see any. Here, I'll walk a little further. Whenever I hunt mushrooms, I tend to move really slow through the woods. And that way I don't miss stuff. Ew. There's something. I actually think that might be an old gill bolete. There's quite a few of them here. We were getting quite a bit of good rain, but now it seems pretty dry in here. You can hear the leaves crunching under my feet. That's usually a bad sign. I usually wait and go out about 3 to 5 days after a good rain. Anytime we get a good inch of rain, you go out about 5 days later and you'll see the woods come alive with mushrooms. I kind of know this little section of woods like the back of my hand now. I know right where the cinnabars grow and right where the old man of the woods grows, and chicken of the woods, which is also called sulfur shelf. I thought I might find some sulfur shelf out here today. I haven't found any all summer. Here's some kind of mushroom. What I do is, if I'm not sure what a mushroom is, I dig it up. You want to be careful not to damage the ground too much, but you really need to dig mushrooms up the first time you find them, especially if they have gills, because it's likely they're an amanita, and you want to check the base of the stem underneath the ground and make sure there's no egg-like sac. And this one has an egg-like sac at the base that the mushroom is growing out of, and it has white gills. This is some type of amanita. I'm not sure, but I think this might be a grisette amanita. I'm not too familiar with the amanitas. There are some edible ones, but I don't mess with them because they are just way too dangerous. But they're a good mushroom to learn. At least you want to understand the genera Amanita, because if you find a mushroom that has this egg-like sac at the base of the stem underground, it's most likely an amanita. And if it has white gills or a white spore print, you really should leave it alone. I try to bury the mushrooms back up. Even the amanitas, they're good for the woods, good for the trees and plants. If it weren't for mushrooms, all the trees and plants would die. They wouldn't be able to survive without mushrooms. The mushrooms are what help the trees and plants absorb nutrients. But I'm going to walk on a little further and see if I run into any chicken of the woods, and if I do, I'll show you those. Talk to you later. Well, sure enough, I did find some Cinnabar Chanterelles. Unfortunately, they're a little too far gone. Chanterelles have false gills. They're more like ridges underneath rather than bladed gills. A lot of times they'll look like gills, but the things I look for identifying the Cinnabar and the common golden chanterelle are the false gills, and the gills, as they run out towards the edge of the cap, will fork out like a river. That's another real good sign. Also, they tend to have a fruity smell, like apricots, and the flesh inside is pure white. They might be orange or yellow outside, but the inside is always pure white, and that is one of the key features. If you have all those features, then you know you most likely have a Chanterelle. But you should always confirm that with somebody that's knowledgeable before you ever start eating them. And when I'm harvesting, I always try to be careful of the ground, because the mushroom's roots, the mycelium, runs just underneath the ground all over. And if you trample over the area, or if you dig it up, or if you rake up the leaves to try and find the mushrooms, you can damage that mycelium, and you can kill off the entire patch of mushrooms. So you really need to be careful. I had a feeling these would be too far gone, because we haven't had quite enough rain recently to keep them going. But as you can see, they're all over here. There's quite a few, but they're all just too old. Here's some more. And you really need a high resolution camera to get good pictures of these mushrooms, to show the features. This one shows the branching forked false gills really well, but you probably can't see that in the picture. But I'm going to leave this area alone. I don't want to trample over this too much. I'll mark this spot. Actually, I already know this spot. I already have it marked. But the Chanterelles will grow in the same spot year after year. So even if you find some old ones, remember where that spot is, and the next time it rains, go back there and look, because it's likely some more will come up. And they'll grow in the same spots year after year. I've been picking Chanterelles from this one spot for the past, I think 4 or 5 years now. And I come here every year, and every year I find a few. It's just a matter of timing, you know. That's how it goes with the mushrooms. You kind of have to get there at the right time, and a lot of times you get there a little too early or a little too late, but every once in a while you get lucky and score a bunch of good eating mushrooms. I'm gonna keep heading on down towards the swamp here and see if I can't find some chicken of the woods.